Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we aren't just looking at a regional delicacy. We are charting a journey into a specific, ephemeral moment in nature that becomes, well, one of the greatest culinary treats known to coastal America: the soft-shell crab sandwich.
Mm.
If you are preparing for a meeting, maybe mastering a new cooking technique, or honestly just craving that perfect crispy crunch, you are definitely in the right place.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is pretty exhaustive, actually. We're moving way beyond just a simple recipe. We're aiming to conduct a really instructional deep dive into the very core of this food phenomenon. It's fascinating.
It really is.
We're covering the history, the precise biology, which is key, the global context, and critically, the exact step-by-step recipes drawn right from our source material.
Okay.
We're talking the iconic DC soft-shell crab sandwich and its essential partner, that distinctive Maryland coleslaw.
Can't forget the slaw.
Never. We'll utilize every technical detail, starting from the fascinating, almost hidden transformation of the blue crab,
Right.
all the way down to almost the molecular science of achieving that ideal crispy crust.
Okay, so we're going deep. We're going to cover the anatomy, things like discussing those polarizing internal organs some people actually request to leave in.
Oh yeah, the mustard.
Exactly. And the specific temperature for frying that separates, a masterpiece from just a greasy mess.
So important.
And why the term for a plump, meaty, soft shell down in the deep south evolved so dramatically. It's quite a story.
It really is.
We have a lot of material to cover today, so let's unpack this. All right, let's begin with the star of our show. The soft-shell crab itself. And, this isn't some rare exotic species found only in, obscure parts of the ocean.
Yeah, no.
It is a specific, really fleeting biological stage in the life of the common blue crab, or scientifically Calanex sapidus.
Calanex sapidus, yeah. Beautiful swimmer.
And its whole existence as a soft shell is entirely dependent on timing and, growth.
It really is the ultimate example of biological necessity driving a culinary opportunity. Crabs, as you probably know, have that rigid outer skeleton, the exoskeleton.
Right, the hard shell.
Exactly. It offers great protection, but it completely restricts growth. So to get larger, they have to periodically shed this hard armor.
Okay.
That process is called exnisis, or, more simply, molting.
Molting, right.
And for a very brief window, maybe only a matter of hours, right after they shed the old shell, the new underlying shell is incredibly delicate, soft, and, crucially for us, entirely edible.
Just hours. Wow. And that brief window is what creates the entire soft shell market. It must be, a logistical nightmare for the crabbers. How on earth do they pinpoint that exact moment before the new shell starts to harden up again?
Well, it is intensely labor-intensive, there's no doubt about it, and it relies heavily on deep, often generational knowledge. Our sources really emphasize this as the key constraint on soft-shell pricing.
Makes sense.
Crabbers generally don't go out looking for actual soft shells swimming around in the wild. That'd be incredibly inefficient.
Right.
Instead, they look for what are called peelers.
Peelers. Okay, what's a peeler?
A peeler is a hard-shell crab that exhibits very specific signs. Sometimes it's visible, changes in the back paddle fins. They might get a reddish or pinkish hue.
Okay.
Or sometimes there's a faint line that becomes visible on the shell itself, along the edge. These signs indicate that the molt is imminent, usually within, say, 24 to 48 hours.
So they're essentially predicting the molt, they're catching them while they're still hard, but they know they're about to transform.
Precisely. It's predictive harvesting. Once these peelers are caught, they're immediately transferred to specialized tanks. Often they're called shedding tanks or floats.
Okay.
And these are kept in controlled environments, usually right on the water or very close by. These tanks allow the crabbers to closely monitor each individual crab. It's very hands-on. As soon as a crab completes the molt and sheds its rigid exoskeleton, literally backs out of its old shell, it is immediately removed from the water.
Immediately. Why so fast?
Because if you leave that freshly molted crab in the water for even, say, 12 hours, maybe a day max, the new shell starts absorbing calcium carbonate directly from the seawater. And it hardens rapidly. It becomes leathery, then brittle, then hard again. It's useless for the soft shell market at that point.
So it turns back into a regular hard shell crab that quickly.
Exactly. This absolute necessity for immediate specialized intervention, this constant monitoring, that's why soft shell crabs are such a high-value premium product. The labor and infrastructure involved are significant.
That intensive effort and that perfect timing really explain why the tradition of savoring soft shells is so deeply rooted in certain places, doesn't it? Like the eastern shores of the United States, particularly coastal regions like Maryland and Virginia.
Absolutely. Those areas developed the infrastructure, the shedding tanks, the know-how, and just as importantly, the cultural appreciation necessary to capitalize on this very fleeting moment in the crab's life. It became part of their culinary identity. And when we talk about the U.S. market, we are primarily discussing the blue crab, Calanectes sapidus. The season for soft shells is dictated entirely by water temperature and the crab's natural life cycle.
So it's seasonal. When does it typically run?
Typically, it runs from the start of April, when the waters begin to warm up enough to trigger molting, all the way through September. Sometimes a little into October if it stays warm.
April to September. Okay.
This window corresponds to the warmer months when the crabs are most actively growing and therefore molting more frequently.
Does the size change during the season?
Yes, generally. The early season, say April and May, often yields smaller crabs, sometimes called mediums. As the summer progresses, into June, July, August, you tend to get the larger, meatier specimens, the jumbos or whales, which are really prized for making substantial sandwiches.
Right, you want a big one for a sandwich.
Definitely. And as with any deeply regional cuisine, the terminology, the language people use, it shifts as you move geographically.
Yeah, you mentioned the Deep South.
Right. Particularly along the Gulf coasts, think Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, you encounter the term buster crab.
Yeah.
And the story behind this name, its linguistic evolution, is surprisingly complex and kind of fascinating.
Okay, tell me about buster crab.
Well, originally our sources detailed that buster crab actually held a slightly negative or at least practical connotation.
Negative. How so?
It often referred to a soft shell that was somehow compromised. Maybe it hadn't fully completed the molt, meaning parts of the shell might still be a bit brittle or papery, not perfectly soft.
Ah, okay. Not ideal.
Or perhaps more commonly in the old days, before modern refrigeration and transport were widespread, it might have referred to a soft shell that had actually died after molting but before reaching the vendor.
Oh.
In that case, it needed to be consumed hastily, often by the crabbers themselves, to avoid spoilage. So it became associated with a kind of rapid, necessity-driven consumption. Bust it open and eat it now.
So initially, it was almost a synonym for a less than perfect or like a rushed product, something you had to deal with quickly.
That seems to be the key historical distinction, yes. A crab you had to bust into quickly. However, modern usage, particularly along the Gulf Coast, has pretty much inverted that meaning.
Really? How so?
Today, if someone offers you a busker crab in, say, New Orleans or Biloxi, they're often referring to a plump, substantial, high-quality soft-shell crab, a really good one.
That's a complete turnaround.
It is. It seems to highlight how regional language adapts based on what the local market or culture prioritizes. Along the Gulf, maybe the emphasis shifted towards the size and meatiness they want, the big ones that almost look like they're bursting out of their shell.
Bursting became buster. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the name evolved to reflect the best, most desirable, meat-filled version of the delicacy. It's a great example of language in action.
And just to close that loop, our source material includes that delightful little footnote about Buster Crabbe, the actor.
Ah, yes, Flash Gordon himself.
Right. While the pronunciation is purely coincidental, apparently it's just a great example of how local terminology can sometimes acquire these little layers of maybe folklore or pop culture references, even if the primary origin is just the regional fishing language.
Yeah, it's a fun coincidence.
Yeah.
Probably didn't hurt the names appeal down there either. Okay, so once that perfectly timed soft-shell crab leaves the shedding tank, we move into the kitchen, into preparation. And what makes the soft shell so unique from a culinary standpoint is its edibility.
Right, you mentioned almost the whole thing.
Almost the entire animal, unlike hard-shell crabs, where, let's be honest, you discard probably 80% or more of the animal, the shell, the gills, everything to get to the meat inside.
A lot of work for little reward sometimes.
It can be, but with a soft shell, almost the entire thing can be eaten. This provides a really concentrated, full-on crab flavor experience. Sweet, briny, the whole deal.
Okay, but almost the entire animal is the really operative phrase there, isn't it? Before we even think about getting it near a fryer or a pan, that proper cleaning is absolutely non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable, absolutely.
So what are the essential exceptions? What are the parts that must be discarded? There are three main ones.
That's correct. This is critical for both texture and, frankly, health and taste. The crab must be cleaned before cooking. The three parts that absolutely have to be removed are, first, the mouth parts, which includes the eyes, essentially the face of the crab.
Okay, the face.
Second, the gills. These are the feathery, spongy structures located under the sides of the top shell. They're often morbidly but aptly referred to as dead man's fingers.
Ugh, dead man's fingers. That sounds pretty ominous. Why exactly must the gills be removed? Is it purely a texture thing? They look kind of unpleasant.
It's partly texture, they are spongy and unpleasant, but it's more functional than that. The gills are the crab's respiratory organs. Think of them as the crab's lungs, essentially acting as filters.
Filters for what?
They filter water, yes, but also particulate, sediment, and potentially any environmental contaminants or toxins present in the water the crab lives in.
Ah, okay.
So while they aren't overtly poisonous in the way some other parts of certain sea creatures can be, they are fundamentally filters. They can taste bitter, sandy, or just plain muddy. Leaving them in would absolutely ruin the delicate, sweet flavor of the surrounding meat and introduce a really unpalatable, often grainy or spongy texture. Their removal is vital for a clean taste.
Okay, it makes perfect sense. Face, gills. What's the third part?
The third part is the abdominal cover, which is also known as the apron. This is the flap that's folded underneath the crab on its belly. It's typically sort of T-shaped or triangular in males and more rounded or bell-shaped in mature females. You just snip or pull that off.
Got it. Face, gills, apron. Okay, let's nail down the precise cleaning steps required before any seasoning or battering happens. Walk us through it.
Okay. The initial preparation is actually pretty swift once you get the hang of it, but it does require a bit of confidence. First, you need sharp kitchen shears or scissors. This is much easier than using a knife.
Sharp shears. Check.
You take the shears and trim the face right off, cutting horizontally just behind the eyes. This removes the mouth parts and eyes in one go.
Okay, straight across behind the eyes.
Exactly. Second, you gently lift the pointed ends of the top shell, the carapace, on each side of the crab. You don't remove the whole top shell, just lift the edges.
Right.
Underneath, you'll clearly see those spongy, grayish, finger-like gills. Use your fingers or the tip of the shears to pull or scrape them out completely from both sides. Make sure you get them all.
Pull out all the dead man's fingers. Got it.
Third, flip the crab over onto its back. You'll see that abdominal cover or apron. Just snip it off at the base with the shears, or sometimes you can just firmly pull it off.
Snip off the apron. Okay.
Fourth step is rinsing. Rinse the crab thoroughly but quickly under cool running water. You're not trying to soak it. Just wash away any remaining gill fragments or grit.
Quick rinse.
And finally, the fifth and absolute crucial step for cooking. Pat them absolutely dry with paper towels, inside and out. Get into the crevices.
Why is getting them super dry so important?
Because any residual moisture is the enemy of crispiness. Water hitting hot oil causes splattering, lowers the oil temperature, and essentially steams the crab instead of frying it. This leads to a soggy, greasy crust instead of that beautiful, light, crispy one you want. So, pat, pat, pat dry. Non-negotiable.
Okay, dry is key. Got it. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and as you mentioned, highly specific to the Atlantic coast tradition, maybe Maryland and Virginia in particular, this optional anatomy known as the mustard.
Ah, yes, the mustard.
As a cook, I mean, my instinct is usually to clean things out pretty thoroughly. I wouldn't intuitively know to leave in the internal organs, yet some enthusiasts absolutely swear by it. What exactly is the mustard?
This is a major regional flavor point and a source of much debate among crab lovers. When customers, typically at a seafood market on the East Coast, ask the vendor to leave the mustard in, or clean it mustard on, they're referring to the soft organs found along the dorsal cavity, right under the top shell.
Okay.
The predominant yellow-orange, paste-like substance is the hepatopancreas.
Hepatopancreas. Okay. What does that do?
It functions similarly to a liver and pancreas combined in vertebrates. It's involved in digestion, secreting enzymes, and it's where the crab stores fats and absorbs nutrients. It concentrates a lot of the crab's essence, so to speak.
And you mentioned roe, too.
Yes, in a mature female crab, particularly later in the season, this dorsal cavity region might also contain the deep orange roe, which are the unfertilized eggs. So mustard can sometimes refer to both the yellow hepatopancreas and the orange roe, if present.
Okay, but if the gills are discarded because they're bitter filters, why on earth would anyone want to leave the hepatopancreas, essentially the crab's liver and pancreas, in? Doesn't it concentrate flavors, maybe even undesirable ones, too intensely?
It absolutely does concentrate flavors, but that is precisely the appeal for those who like it. The hepatopancreas provides an incredibly rich, deep, almost buttery or nutty concentration of crab flavor. It's intense, Very savory, deeply briny, with a unique texture.
Buttery and nutty. That sounds better than livery.
Yeah, it's not really like mammalian liver. It's more like the Tamalian lobster, but perhaps even richer in a blue crab. For aficionados, it adds a profound layer of complexity and umami depth that the pure white muscle meat lacks. It makes the crab taste more intensely of itself.
But it's polarizing, you said.
Highly polarizing. Those who dislike strong, intense, sometimes slightly funky seafood flavors generally prefer their crabs thoroughly cleaned with the hepatopancreas removed. They want just the sweet, clean meat. So it really highlights the deep, nuanced preferences within this specific cuisine. It's a personal choice.
Fascinating. And that kind of nuance, that appreciation for this specific biological moment isn't just an American thing, is it? Soft-shell crustaceans in various forms are a delicacy worldwide.
Absolutely. The biological event, the molting, is recognized as a prime culinary opportunity globally, even if the specific species involved and the preparation methods vary quite significantly from place to place.
So where else do we see this?
Well, let's start over in Japan. Soft-shell crab is quite popular there, often incorporated into sushi.
Right. I think I've had soft-shell crab in like a makizushi roll before, spider
Okay.
roll maybe, but I didn't realize they might be using different species than our blue crab.
That's often the key difference. While blue crab can be imported, in Japan, they more typically utilize native species. Common ones include the Japanese blue crab, which is Portunus trituberculatus, or the shore swimming crab, Turbitus japonica.
Okay. And how do they prepare it for sushi?
The preparation is often quite minimal, focusing on texture. It's usually lightly battered, often just with potato starch or very light tempura batter, then deep fried until crispy.
Fried first.
Yes, almost always fried.
Ah.
Then it's often cut in half and incorporated directly into sushi rolls, like makizushi regular rolls or
Yeah.
tamakizushi hand rolls.
So what's the goal there, culinarily speaking?
The goal is primarily textural contrast. You get the warm, crispy, savory, fried crab exterior right up against the cool, soft sushi rice and the smooth nori seaweed. It delivers this fantastic burst of heat, crunch, and rich crab flavor right in the middle of the roll. It's very effective.
Yeah, it sounds great. Okay, let's move west, over to Europe. You mentioned Spain.
Yes, specifically the coastal region of Andalusia in southern Spain. They have their own unique vocabulary and traditions around this concept.
What do they call them?
They refer to their soft-shell crustaceans, whatever the species, as chicuatos.
Chicuatos.
Okay, and that word apparently derives from a local slang verb, a chicuatar, which essentially means to soften or to become weak, referring to the state of the crab after molting.
Makes sense.
What's really fascinating in Andalusia, though, is the sheer diversity of crustaceans they prepare this way. While we in the U.S. focus almost exclusively on the blue crab for soft shells,
Right.
the Spanish also prepare things like velvet crabs, Nicora puber, which are common there, and even highly prized langoustines, Nephrops norvegicus, scampi, basically when they're caught just after molting.
Wow, soft shell langoustines.
Exactly. And according to our sources, in some coastal areas like Malaga, you might even very rarely find langosta chiguata,
Wait, langosta, that's lobster, isn't it? Soft shell lobster.
soft-shell lobster, yes. It must be an incredibly intense textural experience and apparently extremely rare and highly prized when found.
I can only imagine. How do they typically prepare these chiguatos in Spain?
The preparation is often classic Spanish simplicity, especially for seafood. They're typically deep fried until golden brown and perfectly crisp.
Okay, deep fried again.
Yes, deep frying seems to be a common thread globally for soft shells, but the Spanish often serve them very simply, maybe just with sea salt and lemon, or sometimes with a bright acidic vinaigrette alongside.
Ah, the vinaigrette. Why that?
That sharp vinaigrette provides the necessary counterpoint, that acidic cut, to the richness of the deep-fried shellfish. It cleanses the palate. It's actually quite similar in function to how the tangy coleslaw we'll discuss later provides balance to the rich crab sandwich. It's about balancing richness with acidity.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, one more stop on our global tour. Italy.
Yes, specifically the Venetian lagoon. This is perhaps one of the most famous European examples of a soft-shell crab tradition.
Okay.
In the lagoon, the soft-shell stage of the common Mediterranean crab, Carcinus estuari, is a revered local delicacy. In the local Venetian dialect, they're known as moeca or moche.
Moche. I think I've heard of those.
They're quite famous, yeah. The harvesting methods there are also incredibly time-sensitive and traditional, often involving intricate fishing weirs and nets called vieri, and specialized holding tanks or baskets kept right in the lagoon waters, particularly near islands like Burano or Giudecca. The fishermen there, The Mocanti have generations of knowledge.
Sounds very similar to the peeler process in Maryland, just adapted to their environment.
Very similar principles, yes. Identifying the crabs about to molt and holding them until they do. And how do the Venetians typically serve their moche?
Usually very simply, to showcase the crab's natural flavor. The most classic preparation involves just dipping the live, cleaned moche in beaten egg, then dredging them in fine flour or sometimes semolina,
Okay.
and then frying them quickly in hot oil until puffed and golden. They're often served hot, maybe just with a sprinkle of salt and a wedge of lemon. No heavy sauces, no complex seasonings. It's all about the pure, sweet flavor of the crab itself.
Wow. Simple, elegant.
Exactly. It's another perfect example of a unique, hyper-local, and highly prized culinary tradition built entirely around this temporary, vulnerable state of the crustacean. Okay, now we shift gears. We've explored the deep biology, the tricky harvest, the global appreciation. Now it's time for meticulous instruction. Our focus is narrowing down to that quintessential American classic, the soft-shell crab sandwich. Specifically, we're aiming for the DC style.
Ugh. The DC style. Simple, crispy, and really focused entirely on the quality of the crab and, crucially, the quality of the fry.
Exactly. So this section is really a tutorial. We need to cover every single ingredient and every single step with instructional precision for anyone wanting to replicate this at home.
Precision is absolutely the cornerstone of successful frying, especially with something as delicate as a soft-shell crab. The goal, remember, is to achieve maximum exterior crispness while ensuring the interior meat is perfectly cooked, steamed through, but still moist in a very short time frame.
Right. Okay, let's start with the required ingredients. This is for 4 servings, exactly as outlined in our source material.
All right, ingredient list. First and foremost, for fresh, cleaned, soft-shell crabs. The quality here is paramount. Look for ones that feel plump and heavy for their size and make sure they smell fresh, like the ocean, not ammonia-like or off.
Fresh is key. What size is best for sandwiches?
Generally, jumbos or primes are preferred for sandwiches, as they fill the bun nicely. Mediums work too. You might just use 2 smaller ones per sandwich if needed. So, 4 crabs. Next, you need 4 soft sandwich rolls.
What kind of roll works best?
Something soft is definitely the way to go. Classic choices are soft potato rolls, maybe a slightly pliable brioche bun, or even just good quality soft white rolls. You want something that yields easily and doesn't compete texturally with the crab. Avoid hard, crusty rolls.
Soft rolls, got it. Now for the coating.
For the coating, the gredge, you need 2 main components. 1 cup of all-purpose flour, just standard AP flour, and 1 cup of cornmeal.
Equal parts flour and cornmeal. Why that specific mix?
That 50-50 ratio is really vital for the texture we're aiming for. The all-purpose flour provides adhesion, it helps the coating stick to the crab and gives it some structure. But it's the cornmeal, specifically yellow cornmeal usually, that provides that characteristic, gritty, substantial, lasting crunch that really defines a great soft-shell crab sandwich crust.
Ah, the cornmeal's for the crunch.
Exactly. Just flour can be a bit soft or bread-like. Just cornmeal might not adhere as well and can sometimes be too gritty. The 50-50 blend gives you the best of both worlds, adhesion and crunch.
Okay. And seasonings for that dredge.
The essential seasonings. Add 1 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning. That's classic for a reason in this context. Plus, basic salt and pepper added to your taste. Remember, the crab itself is briny, so don't go overboard on the salt initially, but definitely use some, and freshly ground black pepper is always good.
1 cup flour, 1 cup cornmeal, 1 teaspoon Old Bay, salt, pepper. Check. What about the wet part of the battering?
For the wet batter component, you require 2 large eggs and 1 cup of buttermilk.
Buttermilk specifically, not just milk.
Buttermilk is highly recommended here, yes. It serves a couple of important functions we can get into later.
Okay, 2 eggs, 1 cup buttermilk, then the frying medium.
Right. You'll need an adequate amount of vegetable oil for frying, enough to allow the crabs to float freely without hitting the bottom, usually about 2 to 3 inches deep in your chosen pot or skillet.
And what kind of oil?
A neutral flavored oil with a high smoke point is best. Think of canola oil, peanut oil, grapeseed oil, or just a general vegetable oil blend. Avoid oils with strong flavors or low smoke points, like extra virgin olive oil.
Got it. Neutral, high smoke point oil. And finally, for assembly.
For assembly, keep it classic and fresh. Fresh lettuce leaves, like iceberg romaine or butter lettuce, right sliced tomatoes, tangy sliced dill pickles, and, very importantly, plenty of good quality tartar sauce.
Okay, that's our ingredient list. 4 crabs, 4 soft rolls, flour, cornmeal, Old Bay, salt, pepper, eggs, buttermilk, oil, lettuce, tomato, pickles, tartar sauce.
That's the lineup. Now let's detail the preparation meticulously, starting with the pre-frying steps.
Step 1, the final cleaning and drying. We already covered the cleaning in detail, face, gills, apron off,
Right.
but it bears repeating here. Ensure the crab is clean and, as you stressed, absolutely positively bone dry. Any lingering moisture will sabotage your crispiness.
Sabotage is the right word. It causes splattering, drops the oil temp, leads to sogginess.
Yeah.
So pat them down aggressively with paper towels just before you start the dredging process.
Okay, dry crab's ready. Step 2, creating the dry dredge.
Simple enough. Get a wide, shallow dish or a pie plate. Combine the 1 cup of all-purpose flour, the 1 cup of cornmeal, the crucial 1 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, and your salt and pepper. Whisk this mix thoroughly with a fork or a whisk.
Why whisk it?
You want to ensure those seasonings, especially the Old Bay and salt, are perfectly evenly distributed throughout the flour and cornmeal mixture. You don't want one bite to be bland and the next overly salty. Even distribution is key. This dry mixture does more than just flavor, too. It forms that initial protective barrier around the crab.
Okay, dry dredge mixed and ready. Step 3, the wet batter science.
Right. In a separate, similarly shallow dish, whisk together the 2 large eggs and the 1 cup of buttermilk until they're well combined and smooth.
Okay, back to the buttermilk. Why buttermilk specifically? What does it do that regular milk wouldn't?
Buttermilk plays 2 really important roles here. Firstly, its viscosity. It's slightly thicker than regular milk, helps the subsequent dry dredge adhere much more uniformly and thickly to the relatively smooth, damp surface of the crab shell. It acts like a better glue.
Okay, better adhesion. What's the second role?
The second role is more scientifically relevant, perhaps. Buttermilk contains lactic acid, which gives it its characteristic tang. This acidity does a couple of things. It helps to very subtly tenderize the already delicate crab meat, ensuring it stays moist during the quick fry.
Tenderizing.
And also, that acidity subtly interacts with the proteins in the flour during frying, contributing to a lighter, more complex, and ultimately crispier crust development compared to just using plain water or regular milk. It aids browning and texture.
Fascinating. So buttermilk is doing double duty? Okay, wet batter whisked. Step 4, heating the oil at the thermal sweet spot.
This is where many home cooks, even experienced ones, can go wrong when deep frying. You need to heat your vegetable oil in a deep, heavy-bottomed skillet, a Dutch oven, or even a dedicated deep fryer if you have one.
And the temperature?
The precise temperature is absolutely non-negotiable for perfect soft-shell crabs. 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 175 degrees Celsius.
Exactly 350. Why is that number so critical?
It's critical because of the speed and delicacy involved.
Yeah.
If your oil is much lower than 350, say you drop the crabs in at 325 degrees efference, the cooking time will be longer. The crab will sit in the oil absorbing too much fat before the exterior has a chance to fully crisp up and seal. The result? A heavy, greasy, oily crab. Not good.
Definitely want to avoid that. What if it's too high?
Conversely, if you go too high, say 375 degrees Fahrenheit or even 400 degrees Fahrenheit, the outside, especially that cornmeal component, will be brown, maybe even burn and darken too quickly before the heat is fully penetrated to cook the interior meat thoroughly. You could end up with a bitter-tasting crust and a possibly undercooked lukewarm center. So 350 degrees air provides that perfect thermal sweet spot. It's hot enough to rapidly evaporate surface moisture, create steam that pushes outwards, preventing oil absorption, and initiate the Maillard reaction quickly for that beautiful golden brown color and crispy texture, while allowing just enough time, those few minutes per side, for the interior meat to cook through perfectly.
That makes perfect sense. High heat for a quick dry fry, but not so high it burns. How do you make sure it stays at 350?
That's the other key. You absolutely need a reliable thermometer, a deep fry thermometer that clips to the side of the pot, or a good instant read digital thermometer. Monitor the temperature constantly. When you add the relatively cool crabs, the oil temp will drop. You need to adjust your stove's heat to bring it back up to 350 as quickly as possible without letting it overshoot.
Right. And don't overcrowd the pan, I assume.
Absolutely crucial. Frying in batches is essential. Adding too many crabs at once will cause a drastic temperature drop, leading straight back to that greasy result. Fry maybe 1 or 2 crabs at a time, depending on the size of your pot, ensuring they have space to float, and the oil temp can recover quickly.
Okay, oil heated and monitored. Step 5, the battering technique. This happens right before they go in the oil.
Just before frying each batch, take one of your clean, thoroughly dried, soft-shell crabs. First, dredge it completely in the dry flour cornmeal mixture. Turn it over, get it in all the nooks and crannies. Gently shake off any excess dredge.
Dry first. Like,
Then immediately dip that dry-coated crab into the wet buttermilk egg batter. Ensure it's fully submerged and coated. Lift it out, allowing any excess wet batter to drip back into the bowl for a second or two. You don't want it gloppy.
wet second. Drip off excess.
Then, critically, return that wet battered crab immediately back into the dry mixture for a final light coating. Turn it over again, gently pressing the dry mix onto the surface to ensure it adheres well.
So it's dry, wet, dry. Why do they double dip in the dry stuff?
That final light coating of the dry mixture after the wet dip is key to achieving that really substantial, craggy, ultra-crispy crust. It creates a double-layered effect. The wet batter activates the first layer of dredge, and the second layer of dry mix sticks to that, maximizing the surface area, which leads to maximum crispness when it hits the hot oil.
Ah, maximizing surface area for crunch. Clever. Okay, dry, wet, dry. Gently press. Ready for the hot tub.
Ready for the hot tub? Step 6, frying and draining the payoff.
All right, the moment of truth.
Using tongs, very carefully lower the battered crabs 1 or 2 at a time into the hot 350-degree Thai oil. Lower them away from you to avoid splashes.
Safety first.
Absolutely. Do not overcrowd the pot, as we discussed. Let them fry undisturbed for the first minute or so to allow the crust to set. Then continue frying until they are a deep, uniform golden brown and beautifully crisp.
How long does that actually take? It sounds fast.
It is extremely brief. Because the crab meat itself is thin and delicate and the shell is soft, it cooks very quickly. You're looking at only about 2 to 3 minutes per side. Maybe 4-6 minutes total cooking time per crab.
That's really fast. How do you know when they're perfectly done? Just the color?
Color is the main indicator, that deep, rich, golden brown. They should also float readily near the surface when done. If you're unsure, you can carefully lift one out and check the thickest part of a leg joint, but usually by the time the color is right, they're cooked through. Avoid overcooking, which can make the meat tough.
Okay, 2-3 minutes per side, deep golden brown. Then what?
Use your tongs, or a spider strainer, to quickly remove the perfectly fried crabs from the hot oil. Let the excess oil drip off for a second over the pot, then immediately transfer them to a wire rack placed over a baking sheet or paper towels.
A wire rack, not just paper towels.
A wire rack is preferable if you have one. It allows air to circulate all around the crab, keeping the bottom crust crispy as it drains. Placing it directly on paper towels can sometimes trap steam underneath and make the bottom slightly soggy. If using paper towels, change them between batches if they get saturated.
Good tip. Wire rack for optimal crispiness, and don't stack them, right?
Definitely do not stack them while they're hot and draining. Give them space. Let them drain individually. That residual heat will gently finish cooking the interior meat perfectly, leaving it incredibly moist and sweet inside that crunchy shell.
Perfect. Crispy crabs draining. Now, we need to assemble these beauties. Step 7, preparing the roll.
Right. While the crabs are having their last moments draining and staying hot, quickly prepare your rolls. Slice your 4 soft sandwich rolls horizontally in half, and then lightly toast the cut sides.
Why toast them?
2 reasons. First, light toasting adds a subtle layer of texture and nutty flavor. Second, and more importantly, it creates a slight barrier on the bread surface. This helps prevent the soft roll from becoming immediately soggy the moment you spread the tartar sauce or place the hot, juicy crab on it. It helps maintain the sandwich's structural integrity for a few crucial minutes.
Ah, anti-sogginess insurance. Makes sense. Okay, rolls lightly toasted. Step 8, the foundation and flavor layer.
Assembly time. Start with the bottom bun half. Spread a generous layer of tartar sauce evenly across it. Don't be shy with the tartar sauce.
Generous tartar sauce. Check. What's its role here?
The tartar sauce is critical for moisture, creaminess, and most importantly, that sharp, tangy flavor, usually coming from relish, capers, onions, and lemon juice within the sauce. That tanginess is essential to cut through the richness of the deep-fried crab. It provides balance.
Okay. Tartar down, then the veggies.
Yep, on top of the tartar sauce, add a fresh, crisp lettuce leaf or 2. Follow that with a slice of ripe tomato, and then a few slices of tangy dill pickle.
Why that order? Does it matter?
It matters somewhat for texture and moisture management. The lettuce acts as another slight barrier between the sauce and the crab. The tomato adds freshness and juiciness. The pickles introduce that crucial vinegary acidity and saltiness. Together, these cool, crisp, acidic elements provide a vital contrast to the hot, rich, savory crab. It's all about balance.
Cool, crisp, acidic contrast. Got it. Step 9, placement. The star arrives.
This is the simple but aesthetically important part. Take one of your piping hot, perfectly crispy, soft-shell crabs, drained but still radiating heat, and place it directly onto the prepared bottom bun with its toppings.
Does it matter which way it faces?
Not really for taste, but usually people place it so the legs are sort of sticking out appealingly. And note, as we mentioned, the crab is often and traditionally larger than the bun itself.
Right, it should overflow a bit.
Exactly. That's part of the appeal. The crab should protrude proudly from the edges. It signals abundance. Once placed, cover the magnificent creation with the toasted top bun.
Okay, crab on, top bun on, step 10. Serving.
And this is the final crucial instruction. Serve your soft-shell crab sandwich immediately. Do not wait.
Why the urgency?
Because the magic of this sandwich is entirely in the immediate temperature and texture contrast. You absolutely need that hot, shatteringly crisp, savory crunch of the freshly fried crab hitting your palate at the exact same moment as the cool bun, the creamy, tangy sauce, and the crisp, fresh toppings. Waiting even 5 or 10 minutes will compromise the crust's integrity as steam builds up. It will still taste good, but it won't be peak soft-shell experience. Hot and immediate is key. Now, a masterpiece like that DC soft-shell crab sandwich, rich and crispy as it is, really demands a side dish, a partner, something that not only complements it, but also critically cuts through some of that richness from the fry.
Right, you need balance.
Exactly. And in Maryland, and really throughout the Chesapeake Bay region, the undisputed perfect accompaniment is a very specific type of coleslaw, a specialized Maryland coleslaw.
Okay, Maryland coleslaw. Now, this isn't your standard, maybe heavy, gloopy, overly sweet mayonnaise slaw that you find at every single backyard barbecue, is it?
No, definitely not. While it often has a mayonnaise base, the Maryland tradition offers a delightful, specific twist on traditional coleslaw. It has its own unique charm and flavor profile.
What defines it? What makes it Maryland?
It's primarily known for its carefully calibrated balance.
Right?
It must be both sweet and tangy. Not too much of either. But the real defining characteristic, the non-negotiable ingredient that ties it entirely to Maryland and Chesapeake culinary culture, is the unmistakable addition of Old Bay seasoning right into the dressing.
Ah, Old Bay again. It seems essential to this whole meal.
It really is. It's the Old Bay that elevates the simple slaw dressing from just a standard sweet and sour mix to something much more complex and savory. That unique spice blend, famous for its celery salt, paprika, black pepper, red pepper flakes, and other secret components, adds a warmth and depth that is just perfect with seafood.
So the flavor profile is key. Why is it considered the perfect pairing for the soft shell crab sandwich specifically?
It works on multiple levels. Firstly, as you hinted, the flavor profile is paramount. The coleslaw's bright, tangy notes from the vinegar and its sweetness from the sugar, all enhanced and made savory by the Old Bay, directly complement the natural sweetness of the blue crab meat while cutting through the richness of the fried batter. They enhance each other.
Okay, flavor synergy. What about texture?
The textures play off each other beautifully, too. You have the hot, yielding, delicate meat and shatteringly crisp crust of the crab sandwich. Then you have the cool, crisp, vibrant, slightly crunchy texture of the cold coleslaw. That contrast in both temperature and texture is incredibly refreshing and satisfying. It prevents palate fatigue. They form this perfect coastal harmony.
Cool, crisp, tangy slaw meets hot, rich, crispy crab. Sounds like a winning combination.
It truly is. They are inseparable in authentic regional cuisine for very good reasons. Okay, let's detail the precise ingredients required to construct this essential Maryland side dish so you can make it alongside your sandwiches.
All right, lay out the coleslaw recipe ingredients.
For a standard batch of coleslaw, enough for about 4 servings or maybe a bit more, you will need 1 medium head of cabbage. Green cabbage is standard, and you want it finely shredded.
How fine is finely shredded?
Pretty fine. You can use the shredding disc on a food processor, a mandolin, carefully, or just a very sharp knife and patience. Thin strands, maybe 1/18 inch thick or less, work best. You also need 1 large carrot, grated.
Shredded cabbage, grated carrot. The base. Now for the dressing.
For the dressing, you need ½ a cup of mayonnaise. Use a good quality, full-fat mayonnaise for the best flavor and texture. This forms the creamy base.
Half cup mayo, okay.
Then, for the critical tang and sweetness, you need 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar.
Apple cider vinegar specifically.
Yes, apple cider vinegar is traditional and preferred here. We can talk about why in a moment.
Okay. 2 tablespoons ACV, 2 tablespoons sugar, and the star.
And, of course, the signature Maryland element.
Yeah.
1 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning. Start with 1 teaspoon. You can always add more later. plus, naturally, salt and pepper to taste.
Cabbage, carrot, mayo, apple cider vinegar, sugar, Old Bay, salt, pepper. Seems simple enough.
The ingredients are simple, but the technique and proportions are key. And the quality of the shredding, as I mentioned, is actually pretty critical. A very fine, thin shred allows the dressing to coat every strand and penetrate the cabbage more effectively during the crucial chilling process. Chunky slaw doesn't work as well here.
Fine shred is important. Got it.
Yeah.
Let's move to crafting the coleslaw itself. What's step one?
Step 1. Preparing the base. Pretty straightforward. Start by finely shredding your medium cabbage and grating your large carrot. Combine them in a large mixing bowl. Toss them together lightly just to distribute the carrot. This creates that vibrant, colorful foundation.
Cabbage and carrot mixed in a big bowl. Step two, the dressing mixing for balance.
Right. Critically, you want to mix the dressing separately first. So in a separate, smaller bowl, combine the half cup of mayonnaise, the 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, the 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, and that initial 1 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning. Whisk these ingredients together thoroughly until the sugar is completely dissolved and the dressing is smooth and emulsified.
Why mix it separately? Why not just dump it all on the cabbage?
Mixing it separately ensures 2 things. 1, that the sugar fully dissolves into the vinegar and mayonnaise so you don't get gritty bits of sugar in your slaw. 2, it allows the mayonnaise to properly emulsify with the vinegar, creating a stable, creamy dressing before it hits the vegetables. It leads to a more evenly coated and better textured final product.
Makes sense. Now, you emphasized apple cider vinegar earlier. Why is that type preferred over, say, standard white distilled vinegar? Does it really make a significant difference in the final taste?
Oh, it makes a huge difference, in my opinion, and according to most traditional recipes. Standard white distilled vinegar can be very harsh, very sharp, almost one-dimensional in its acidity. It can easily overpower the other flavors.
Okay.
Apple cider vinegar, on the other hand, because it's made from fermented apples, carries much subtler, fruitier, and slightly richer background notes. It provides the necessary bright tanginess to balance the mayo and sugar, but it does so without overwhelming the delicate sweetness of the cabbage or, crucially, the complex savory notes of the Old Bay seasoning. It maintains that critical sweet, tangy, savory balance that the Maryland style is really known for. It's a more harmonious acidity.
Fruity tang, not harsh tang. Got it. Apple cider vinegar it is. So dressing is whisked smooth. What's step 3?
Step 3. Adjustments. This is the personalization phase, and it's important. Before you pour the dressing over the vegetables, taste it. Just dip a clean spoon in and taste the dressing itself.
Taste the dressing first. Why?
Because the perceived sweetness and tanginess can vary slightly based on the specific brand of mayonnaise you used, the exact acidity of your vinegar, or just your personal preference. Now is the time to adjust. Does it need a pinch more sugar for sweetness? A tiny splash more vinegar for extra tang? Maybe a bit more salt or pepper. Adjust the dressing now until it tastes balanced to you.
Adjust to taste before combining? Smart. Okay, dressing perfected. Step 4, combining and tossing.
Now you pour your perfectly balanced dressing directly over the shredded cabbage and carrot mixture in the large bowl. Using large serving spoons, tongs, or even your clean hands, which sometimes works best for gentle tossing, gently toss the vegetables and dressing together until everything is evenly coated.
Gently toss. Why gentle?
You don't want to be too rough or vigorously stir it, as that can bruise the finely shredded cabbage, making it release too much water too quickly and potentially becoming limp or watery later on. The goal is just uniform coverage with a light touch.
Even coating, light touch. Got it. Step 5, final seasoning and the Maryland kick.
Once everything is nicely coated, give it a final taste. Now season with a sprinkle of salt and freshly ground black pepper to your liking. But here comes the key part for that authentic, full-bodied, extra Maryland touch, a phrase taken directly from our regional source material.
The extra kick.
Exactly. Add more Old Bay seasoning. Sprinkle another half teaspoon or even a full teaspoon, depending on your preference, right over the top of the tossed slaw just before chilling. This final sprinkle ensures that the Old Bay flavor is really prominent, providing that delightful, noticeable savory kick and aromatic complexity that shouts, Maryland.
Don't be shy with the final Old Bay sprinkle. Okay. Now, what sounds like maybe the most important part. Step 6, the critical step chilling and flavor melding.
This is arguably the most vital step in making truly great Maryland coleslaw. Right after getting the dressing balance and the Old Bay amount right, you must cover the bowl tightly with plastic wrap or transfer the slaw to an airtight container and refrigerate it for at least 1 to 2 hours before serving. Longer is often even better, up to a day.
At least 1 to 2 hours. Why is this chilling period so absolutely crucial? Can't I just make it and serve it immediately with the hot crabs? It would be crisp then, wouldn't it?
It would be crisp, yes, but the flavor would be completely undeveloped and the texture wouldn't be quite right either. If you serve it immediately, the flavors are flat. The dressing just tastes like dressing sitting on raw cabbage.
Okay.
That chilling period allows a crucial process, partly osmotic, partly just time, to occur. The salt, sugar, and acid in the dressing begin to gently draw out a small amount of moisture from the cabbage cells. This does two things. It slightly softens the cabbage texture, making it tender crisp instead of rigidly raw, and more importantly, it allows the flavors, the sweet, the tangy, the creamy, and especially the complex notes of the Old Bay to fully meld, penetrate the vegetables, and marry together into one harmonious taste.
Ah, so the flavors need time to actually get into the cabbage, not just sit on top.
Precisely. The wait time transforms the coleslaw from just a simple mix of dressed vegetables into a truly cohesive, deeply flavorful accompaniment, where every bite tastes like perfectly seasoned coleslaw, not just cabbage with sauce. It allows it to reach its peak flavor, tang, and ideal tender crisp texture. It's absolutely essential.
It sounds like the coleslaw really needs its own quiet time, its own little marinade period to truly develop its character before it's ready to meet the star, the soft shell crab.
That's a perfect way to put it. It needs time to harmonize, to become itself. This ensures it provides that perfect, refreshing, tangy, cool, and flavorful counterpoint that is absolutely necessary to balance the hot, rich, savory, crispy crab sandwich. Don't skip the chill time. Hashtag outro, synthesis, and final thought.
Wow, this has been an incredibly exhaustive, really instructional deep dive, hasn't it? We've covered the entire life cycle and culinary journey of this unique delicacy.
I really have.
We started right at the beginning with the specific biological timing of the blue crab molting cycle, understanding that it dictates that short, precious season, typically April through September.
And how that vulnerability is exploited in a culinary sense globally. We touched on Spain's chiguados, even soft-shell lobster, and Italy's revered moche from Venice.
Right. Then we transition into the really meticulous instructional details for the home cook. Things like the 3 essential parts of the crab that must be discarded: face, gills, apron.
Yep. And the science behind that perfect dredge, the 50-50 cornmeal flour ratio for crunch and adhesion. The absolute necessity of frying at precisely 350 degrees Fahrenheit to avoid that dreaded greasiness or burning.
And the subtle but important role of buttermilk in the wet batter for both adhesion and tenderizing, and that crucial wet-dry coating technique for maximum crispiness.
So we covered it all for the sandwich. And then finally, we detailed the essential sidekick, that authentic Maryland coleslaw.
Relying on the specific fruity tang of apple cider vinegar, not white vinegar, and of course multiple generous additions of Old Bay seasoning for that signature flavor.
And insisting, absolutely insisting, on that crucial 1 to 2 hour minimum chilling time to allow the flavors to meld and the texture to reach perfection.
So, stepping back from the recipes for a second, what really stands out here, the big picture takeaway?
For me, what stands out is how this highly prized, intensely seasonal cuisine is fundamentally entirely dependent on understanding and, frankly, manipulating the hyperspecific biology and timing of one particular creature, the blue crab.
Right. The whole soft shell market wouldn't exist without human intervention.
Exactly. Its commercial existence relies almost entirely on human intervention, identifying the peelers, moving them to those climate control shedding tanks, monitoring them constantly, and removing them from the water at precisely the right moment within hours of molting. It's quite an operation.
It truly is an intersection of natural fragility and, well, some pretty clever culinary engineering and intensive labor.
It absolutely is. And this reliance, this intensity, raises a really important question, I think. An ill provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider long after you've mastered these recipes and enjoyed your sandwich. The soft shell season is inherently brief, biologically constrained. Commercial availability is stretched and maintained primarily through this intensive localized labor and these specialized climate control techniques, all designed to guarantee harvest just before or immediately as the molt occurs. Given this intense logistical requirement, the reliance on predicting and controlling a natural process, and the ever-increasing global demand for this specific ephemeral luxury product, what are the broader implications?
Implications like?
Well, what are the broader logistical challenges as demand grows? What about the environmental implications for sustainable harvesting? Is the high price we pay justified purely by the intense labor involved? Or does the very intensity of the process, catching peelers, concentrating them in tanks, pose potential long-term challenges or stresses to the wild blue crab population itself? How sustainable is this model if demand continues to skyrocket?
That's a really important point. We celebrate the delicacy, but the process behind it has complexities.
Exactly. It's something for you to mull over, perhaps, as you savor the incredible taste and texture of your next perfect, crispy, soft shell creation. Enjoy it, but maybe think a little about the journey it took to get to your plate.